what a pleasure I have on The Informer. I actually get to say hello to my neighbour. Hello, neighbour.
Hello, George. My neighbour, 50 metres away. We live from each other, but we're here now talking virtually via Zoom.
And the person I'm talking to, of course, is Marlene Elliott. Marlene, from your early days in netball to your current status, you're on the 3 different boards. What are the 3 boards that you're involved with at the moment?
Yes, I'm on the board of the Commonwealth Games Australia, Workways Australia, and just recently appointed to Triathlon Australia.
Oh,
I'm very excited about that.
Well, you've got enough on your hands, but let's go through some of those boards at the moment and some of the things, the interesting news that's coming out of it. The Com Games, where the world is, of course, contracting at 1 million miles an hour, sport even more so. We've seen the Olympic Games shifted. What does that impact, or how does it impact that decision on the Com Games?
Yeah, well, like all organisations and people, we have to pivot really quickly, and you have to be flexible and really respond quickly to that change and complexity that COVID has brought upon everyone. So normally it's a 2-year runway after the Olympics into Commonwealth Games, and that is Birmingham 2022. So what this has done is really contracted that time frame, and now it's only a year. So with that comes a whole lot of excitement, because usually after Olympic Games, there's you lose a little bit of momentum, and then you've got to pick it up for Commonwealth Games. And now it's only a year. And in that year of 21-22, you've got Olympics, Paralympics, Winter Olympics, and a whole lot of World Championships. So the momentum is quite exciting, and a lot to look forward to, and a jam-packed calendar for not only the athletes but for the sporting organisations to deliver on that international.
I can understand your excitement. I can understand your excitement, when you're focused from your perspective and from your position, it would be seriously thrilling to know that you've got a finite time and there's little or no downtime. You've got to get on with it. But what are the things that are really challenging you? You've gone from having 2 years now to 1 year. Can you get it done?
Absolutely. We've got an investment fund that certainly is allocating funds to the sporting organisations to ensure athletes are performing at their best, making sure that we're supporting the sports in terms of the changes and the challenges they're achieving. We've just recruited 2 new staff members to ensure that we do deliver on time and do achieve our goals and objectives to perform at the Birmingham Games in 2022. So whilst there's challenges and complexity, there's a whole lot of excitement to cram it into that next 2 years leading up to the Games.
And what's our team likely to look like? Have we got some outstanding champions or real contenders who are going to light up not only the sporting fields, but give Australians something to hold on to and get excited about?
Yeah, well, Australians love to cheer on any type of sport, really. So
Right.
There's a whole lot of grassroots programs and high performance programs. Like I said, that investment in that, I can't really name a whole lot of those athletes. There's sports that achieve a lot now on the world stage, but there's also a deeper focus to help those sports that aren't as known on that world stage, and those athletes to really help accelerate their performance and achieve ultimate gold medal, and Australia being number 1.
Oh, augurs well. Now, I know you're a competitive netballer in your early days, and you played right across the board, so you've had enormous experience there. You notice that the Super League, the netball is up and about, thankfully, after all this COVID crisis challenges. Does that suggest to you that our Diamonds will be really focused and really at their peak when they need to perform against a very hostile New Zealand team that'll want to claim the bragging rights?
Yeah, well, we've got 2 years leading up to the Com Games. Netball Australia has just announced the new Diamonds coach, Stacey Markovic,
Yep.
which is exciting. A new leader to take on board a new team. I think we'll go through that rebuilding stage. There's an enormous amount of talent, and with the Suncorp Super League, it's the world's best platform for netballers. Hence the attraction of international players as well. So the rivalry between us and New Zealand is always there.
Fearsome,
But
yeah.
you know, England and South Africa are also very strong as well now.
They've got some giants playing the game in South Africa. I don't know where they find them, but each and every season, each and every major competition, they come up with some outstanding talent. You're right. What do you make of some of the new rules that netball is throwing up to try and not only excite us, but change the game and help it evolve?
Yeah, it is exciting. It is all about fan engagement and attracting viewers on TV. So, you know, like any sport or any business, you have to adapt and flex and pivot really quickly to make sure you're competitive. I love the 2-point shot because as an old player, I was known for my long bombs. So I love the 2-point shot. I think it's working well. It creates a bit of excitement. I also do love the rolling subs. So I think it's working well, and I think the coaches, the players, and the organisations, being the teams itself, have adjusted really well to a decision that was made quite late, but then again, it was needed, I think, to bring some difference to the game and to the broadcast.
Marlene Elliott, you've given us an inkling though of your, of where your heart lies. You're an attacker. You love to score those goals, but don't you feel any sympathy for the poor defenders?
No. No, I don't. Mind you, though, I originally was a defender, and I must have been really bad at that because my coach then threw me into goals. So no, I don't feel sorry for the defenders, and neither do defenders feel sorry for the goalers. So
I heard Bianca
it's a love-hate relationship.
I heard Bianca Chatfield feel like pangs of pain for all the defenders who had to cope with the new challenges and the new bombs. Let's talk about another sport that you're on the board of, Triathlon Australia. How is that tracking to get representatives for the Com Games?
Well, I've just been appointed to Triathlon Australia, so I was very privileged. Honestly, I don't know a lot about that sport, but it's typical of board members to bring that outside-in perspective and bring a difference in terms of your skills and experience, and I'm really excited to do that on that board. I've had one board meeting, and there's a wealth of knowledge, and it's a great organisation. It's really different because the sport itself is a great leveller. You can have kids participating in triathlons. It's a great gender balanced organisation and performance and athletes. And they have amazing high performance pathways and a huge amount of international competition. Fingers crossed that the Noosa Triathlon, which is probably the largest triathlon and the most competitive and popular in Australia, will go ahead in November in Noosa. Yeah,
under the current conditions, I think if the Queenslanders can hold the AFL Grand Final, then I think the Noosa Triathlon, which, as you say, is one of the biggest and brightest events of every year in Australia, it should be, with a little social distancing is the only question mark I have. Let's see how that works. Now tell me, you mentioned the word pathways. There's another board that you're sitting on. It's Workways Australia. Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, when I wanted to pursue a board portfolio and build my career, I also wanted to look at something that was aligned to my passion and purpose. So in that regard, a non-sport board. So Workways Australia, who I knew nothing about, were advertising. So I pursued that and unfortunately was appointed to that board. It's an amazing organisation. What it's focused on is economic, social and environmental benefits to the community, and really to help people that have been long-term in unemployment to get back into employment, to build their confidence, their self-worth, to get them to obtain and retain jobs through training programs. And there's some amazing stories. And it started 30 years ago in Gippsland down at Bairnsdale, and now we've got offices and support all up the regional coasts of Australia, right up to Cairns. So it's an amazing organisation.
Talk to me about funding. Marlene, talk to me about funding for Workways. What drives it? How do we give it the support that it needs to do the tremendous work that you tell me it's doing?
Well, certainly there's two main programs we have, and that is Job Active and Disability Employment Scheme. And we certainly are funded through the federal government, and we have contracts to deliver those services. So we are fortunate enough, but as any organisation delivering to the community, we have to uphold our contracts and deliver exceptional service, and making sure that we are helping those communities get into the workforce to retain their jobs and also build their confidence, their skills and their ability.
Anytime you can give people confidence, anytime you can give them a boost, anytime you can give them a leg up, it's an exciting time. It's a rewarding time. Let me take you back to those early days when you weren't the cool kid. Talk to me about those early days for you and what it meant for you to be included and to be part of those early days. As you said, you weren't the cool kid.
I wasn't a cool kid at school. I went into high school and I was bullied. I was picked on, and I had to go to the counsellor and talk to him of why. And I couldn't make the netball team at school. So it was a very interesting stage, and I think that's where I developed a lot of determination and resilience.
Yeah.
And having an older brother and an older sister who were 10 and 12 years older than me, I always wanted to keep up with them. So, don't let people define you, and don't let bad things define you, and you just got to dig deep. And not being a cool kid at school probably worked for me in the long run.
Isn't that fantastic? I love hearing stories where people didn't expect to climb to where they've climbed today because they didn't get the hand down. They weren't considered the natural. So just take us back for those that have just joined us on the interview and are wondering a little bit more about Marlene Elliott. Just take us through those early days, from the days when you weren't the cool kid. Where did you go? How did you get yourself involved and make that leap into competitive sport?
Well, I would catch 3 buses to go to netball training, and that which was really quite hard. And my father actually fell ill with cancer when I was 12, and from the age of 12 to 18, I watched my father struggle with his health, and he never complained, and he just got up every morning and had a crack. And I think that's where I developed those skills from as well. And sadly, he passed away when I was 18. So when I couldn't make the netball team at school, there was an opportunity to go out for some state trials, and I couldn't make the schoolgirls team, but then I went out to the under 21 netball state team. And at the age of 16, I think I actually made the under 21 state team. And through a friend who used to pick me up and take me to training, she's my best friend still to this day. She used to pick me up and take me to training. She was in the open state team and I was in the under 21 state team. So like you said, George, through resilience and a few things that are not, handed to you on a plate, you get very determined and very focused.
I was going to say, do you still use those ingredients in your makeup that you've now included that are part of your DNA to help you in your responsibilities on the 3 different boards that you are now involved in?
Yeah, I do. But also I have through the journey, I like to make time to give to other people. So my purpose is pretty simple. It's to enable others to shine and succeed. And you can do that in sport, business, or family. So I do make sure that I make time in my life to give to others, people I don't even know, to make sure that, I'm helping someone else and I'm paying it forward.
I think it's remarkable when you reflect. It's a career that's been, 30 years in the making, and you still feel the absolute need and desire to keep delivering. I mean, I love that. I think, as you said, from those early tentative steps, you still have the fire burning to not only succeed, but to help others make that transition and strive to be goal setters.
Yeah.
Well, we wish you continued success. What's the next big item on the agenda on your calendar? What's the next big deal that you have to get across? Is it the Com Games all sorted?
Well, yeah, the Commonwealth Games certainly is a focus. We have a committee, brand marketing committee, and we're meeting next week, I think, led by David Colbert, who's extraordinary in his job, General Manager. And so we've got a lot of things on our plate. We've got to deliver on a couple of strategic priorities leading up to the Games. So there's a big chunk of work there to do. And there's also Workways, to help the community and the people get into the workforce, and the increase in unemployment. That is going to be a massive piece of work to do in the next year or two, helping this country get back on their feet. Good point,
good point. What have you made of this challenge that is facing not only Victorians, but Australians, this COVID epidemic that's created such disruption in our lives?
Yeah, I mean, in my consulting business, we were talking about what organisation actually had in their risk profile and their strategic plan to cope with a global pandemic that's going to shut down the world. No one would have had that in their plan. So it's really changed the world. It's really sad. I get angry and I get sad and I get very frustrated. And I think it just takes a lot of discipline, and people need to be selfless. I think there's a lot of stubborn and arrogant people out there, but there's also a lot of people that are really doing it tough and really needing help. And I think if we can just come together and address those things with integrity and honesty and transparency, I think we're going to get through it a lot quicker. I think communication and education is the key to getting through this, in my opinion.
And we'll also get through it if people such as yourself continue to showcase that fire and that will to succeed, that you were I could just hear in between those words just how disappointed you are and how much you understand how hard we've got to work to make the move to get past this COVID challenge, and we can do it if we do it together. Yeah?
Absolutely, George. Yeah, right. Thank you.
Well, neighbour, we hope to see more of you soon, especially if the lockdown in Victoria opens up. All the very best.
Absolutely, George.
A delight to catch up with Marlene Elliott, who's doing not only on one board, but on 3 different boards, and working really hard to give back. She's been a fighter from her early days, and I can see clearly that she hasn't stopped fighting. All the best, Marlene.
Thank you, George.
Our pleasure.